we'll pull them in after the administration speaks. So for right now, good morning, everyone. I'm City Councilor Lydia Edwards, Chair of the Committee on Government Operations. It's Thursday, September 30th. And we're here today for a virtual docket hearing on docket 0441, an ordinance relative to the investments of the City Treasury, referred to the committee on March 17th. This matter is sponsored by myself, Councilor Wu, and Councilor O'Malley. In accordance with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law, we are having this hearing via Zoom. This allows for us to balance the need to get our jobs done as city councilors, while at the same time adhering to the public health needs of the day. The public may watch this hearing via live stream at www.boston.gov/city-council-tv and on Xfinity 8, RCN 82, Verizon 964. It will also be rebroadcasted at a later date. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.go@boston.gov and will be made part of the record and available to all councilors. This ordinance would prohibit the use of public funds from investing in stocks, securities, or other obligations of companies which derives more than 15% of the revenue from the sale of tobacco products, fossil fuels, or carceral facilities. The proposal requires the city to divest public funds from investments related to those fossil fuels by December 31st of 2025, and requires the Collector Treasurer to submit a report to the City Council on city investments. The city passed a similar ordinance in 1984 regarding the investing and divesting of public funds in companies doing business with the Republic of South Africa. Joining the committee today on behalf of the administration are Maureen Garceau, First Assistant Collector Treasurer, Treasury Department, who will provide opening remarks, and then Richard DiPiano, Second Assistant Collector Treasurer, to assist with questions and answers. We will also hear from members of the public. We have a second panelist of folks who are part of, who will be testifying about divestment. We may be joined also by Bob Massey. Go check and see if he's coming on. But for now, we have Kanan Thiruvengadam from East Boston, founder of Easty Farm, and he's an incredible climate activist and constituent of mine from East Boston. And Richard Klopp, Professor Emeritus at Boston University School of Public Health. Bob Massey will hopefully be joining us, who is, of course, the Executive Director of UMass Boston Sustainable Solutions Lab and the New Economy Coalition. Emily Norton, who's a Newton City Councilor, our colleague over there in Newton, and Executive Director of the Charles River Watershed Association. I'm going to turn it now over to the co-sponsors. I believe we're joined by, just right now, Councilor O'Malley, and then I will turn it over to my colleagues in order of arrival. So Councilor O'Malley, if you want to go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'll be brief because I'm looking forward to get into the heart of this, but I'm just delighted to be with each and every one of you. Can't wait to hear from some of our great advocates and partners in the work. I want to particularly thank Professor Clapp, a constituent of mine who's been a leader on this and really educated me. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, working with you, working with Councilor Wu, working with other colleagues, we've had this hearing, we've done these resolutions a number of times, specifically as it relates to fossil fuel infrastructure. And I wanted to just briefly note in my opening that a decade ago, in 2011, ExxonMobil was the top performing company in the world, and nearly every endowment had invested in it. And I wanted to really acknowledge Bill McKibben, an absolute leader in this space, who began the divestment movement, again, as sort of what was seen as a fringe movement a decade ago. It's now a $15 trillion movement. And as I've often said, every environmentalist should be, or every fiscal conservative should be an environmentalist. Fossil fuel related funds are underperforming and clean energy related funds are overperforming. So not only is this the right thing to do, to invest in renewable energy and divest from fossil fuels, which are killing the planet, but we will also get a better return on investment for our pensioners. So this is obviously a no-brainer. I'm delighted for your partnership as well as with Councilor Wu. And this is something that I know we are dedicated to getting done. It's been wonderful to see Harvard, to see BU as recently as last week, so many other major funders divesting from fossil fuels. It is our moral obligation to do so. It is also our fiduciary obligation to do so. And that's why I'm so delighted to continue this work with all of you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, colleagues. Look forward to this hearing.
Thank you very much. Up next is Councillor Braden. Counselor Braden? We'll let her get on and go to Counselor Flynn.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Edwards, and to the makers for bringing this important subject to the public. It is important to know where Boston invests its money in, and what happens here has a big impact on national decision-making and what happens across the world as well. Just as a brief example, the city of Boston in the mid-'80s divested money from the racist government in South Africa, and other cities followed. New York City under Mayor Dinkins or Mayor Koch, and Chicago under Mayor Harold Washington, and Los Angeles under Tom Bradley, and Boston under Mayor Flynn. So it's important that our values are also considered when we're investing city money, taxpayer money, for various companies. So hats off to the makers. Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Thank you to the professional people that are on this call with us as well.
Thank you. And I don't know if Councillor Braden's back, but just to give some quick background for folks and why we're doing this and how this is a little different than the other divestment hearings we've had. This one isn't necessarily targeting the retirement funds. This is targeting our trust funds and the funds that are almost wholly controlled by the city of Boston. And so that is why this is different. It also builds on something that's already the law, which is we have a tobacco divestment ordinance. And this actually expands on what we're already doing when it comes to tobacco products. I believe it's the Tobacco Treasury divestment policy exists as it is. So we're expanding on that policy as well. So these are about city funds. And in the Treasury, I'm sure we'll hear from our colleagues from the Treasury Department. There are a lot of trusts in how much money is totally in the Treasury that we have control over. And that would be impacted by this. And I'm sure they'll explain to us the pros, cons, and what we're talking about in terms of real dollars and timeline. But this is something that we need to take very seriously, because we, again, are already talking about greenhouse emission reduction. We're talking about consistently as a city and shifting our moral compass towards building a city that is readily available for climate change and not contributing to climate change, as we already passed a massive ordinance under Matt O'Malley's leadership for Beardo. We want to make sure that our investments aren't going into helping the oil and fossil industries grow, while we're also trying to build differently and control the emissions and how we move as a city. We don't want to talk out of both sides of our mouths, essentially. And we've taken we've done this before. This is not new, divesting from South Africa, divesting from tobacco products. So this is just expanding the conversation, and I look forward to hopefully getting this done. I'm going to now turn it over to the Treasury Department. And when Councilor Braden gets on, we'll let her do some opening remarks. But we're going to turn it now over to Maureen Garceau for opening remarks. And then I think Richard DiPiano will stay on for any Q&A.
Thank you. President O'Malley, Chairperson Edwards, and other councilors on today, thank you. Good morning. Just to follow up on Councilor Edwards, I'm Maureen Garceau. I began as First Assistant Collector Treasurer at the beginning of August. However, I've been with the city in the Treasury Department for 21 years. Here with me today is Richard DiPiano, Second Assistant Collector Treasurer. And Rich has been with the city for nearly 40 years, and the bulk of that time in Treasury. The City of Boston Treasury Department oversees the general fund investments. We do so with overall objectives of safety, liquidity, return, and wherever possible, sustainability. Approximately 35 to 40% of these assets are with the Massachusetts Municipal Depository Trust, MMDT, which is managed